1993 Birthday Honours New Zealand. The 1993 Queen's Birthday Honours in New Zealand, celebrating the official birthday of Elizabeth Roman II, were appointments made by the Queen in her right as Queen of New Zealand on the advice of the New Zealand government to various orders and honours to reward and highlight good works by New Zealanders. They were announced on 12 June 1993. The recipients of honours are displayed here as they were styled before the new honour. Companion CB. Companion CB. Military Division Rear Admiral Ian Alexander Hunter, Chief of Naval Staff, Royal New Zealand Navy. Companion CMG. Companion CMG Karen Margaret Water. For services to economics and business management. Dame Commander DB. Dame Commander DB. Civil Division the Reverend Dr. Phyllis Myra Gothard. For services to the Methodist Church and Women. Louise Eshonette Sidney Henderson. For services to art. Dawn Ruth Lamb. For services to education. Georgina Catrell Pamela Augusta Wallace Lately, a District Court Judge. Commander CBE. Commander CBE. Civil Division Susan Elizabeth Andevoy. For services to squash in the community. Teresa Eileen Frill. For services to the community. Dr. Owen Filbert Haylock. For services to the timber industry and the community. Dr. Helen Hannah Rick Hughes, Parliamentary Commissioner for the Environment. The Reverend Eleanor Glenys Lewis. For services to the Anglican Church. Shirley Jean Martin. For services to the community. Norton Ross Muller. For services to business management and the community. Dr. Alfred Philip Poole. For services to medicine and the community. Military Division Brigadier Pierce Martin Reed, Brigadiers List, New Zealand Army. File Dame Susan Devoy 2 Cropped. JPG Susan Devoy File PC 20 Form 3 Commissioner Cropped Helen Hughes, JPG Helen Hughes. Officer OBE. Officer OBE. Civil Division Dennis Frederick Adam. For services to the arts and community. T.R. Takatoa Davis. For services to weaving and the community. Professor Mary Davidson Earl. For services to food technology. Ryan Timothy Finn. For services to music. Neil Mullane Finn. For services to music. Dr. Dorothy Margaret Ann Grunwald. For services to neuropsychology. Ashley Robert Grimm. For services to tourism and the community. Douglas Ian Howell. For services to business management. Andrew James Duncan Lane. For services to sport, especially swimming. Ross and Philippa O'Loughlin Mio. For services to business management. Barry John Patterson. For services to cricket. Brian Richard Perry. For services to business management and the community. Shirley Joan Ross. For services to the community. Jean Annie Walsh. For services to education and the community. Bruce Fergus Scott, Assistant Commissioner, New Zealand Police. Military Division Commander John Robert Meldrum, Royal New Zealand Navy. Colonel Richard Paul Gray, Colonel's List, New Zealand Army. Wing Commander Peter Alexander Williamson, Royal New Zealand Air Force. File Mary Earl 1992 Cropped. JPG May Earl File Tim Finn. JPG Tim Finn File O'Neill Finn 1996. JPG Percent 7 C Neil Finn File Ross and Mio Cropped. JPG Ross and Mio. Member MBE. Member MBE. Civil Division Elizabeth Farrant Airy. For services to music. Christopher Arthur Ammon. For services to motorsport. Dorothy June Bell. For services to the Girls Brigade and the community. Robert Victor Brown. For services to the accounting profession. Matthew Harold Cameron. For services to local government. The Honourable Frederick Miroslav Jurbic. For public services. Major Margaret Evangel Hay. For services to the Salvation Army. Mary Elizabeth Fairmead Johnson. For services to local body and community affairs. Dr. Robert Paul Kibblewhite. For services to science. Blanche Lois Kingdon. For services to welfare work. Robin Margaret Lane. For services to the film industry. Barbara Ray Mabbitt. For services to education. Esme Leon Maris. For services to business and economic affairs. Jennifer Ann McMahon. For services to welfare work. Norman James McMillan. For services to local body and community affairs. Ralph Hamilton Roberts. for services to yachting. Pamela Dawn Robinson, for services to the community. Alison Pamela Rowe, for services to athletics. Maxwell Rickshort, for services to local government. Ormond Emily Smith, for services to dancing. Murray Mail Sweetman, for services to the community. Robert Blythe Tate, for services to equestrian sport. Jeffrey Dawson Taylor, for services to the fruit-growing industry. Morris George Wall, for services to local body and community affairs. Military Division Warrant Officer Kenneth Allen Bancroft, Royal New Zealand Navy. Squadron Leader Noel Ward, Royal New Zealand Air Force. File Ammon Chris 19,730,706 JPG % 7C Chris Ammon File Alison Rowe Cropped JPG Alison Rowe. British Empire Medal BM. British Empire Medal BM. Military Division Chief Petty Officer Christopher Hickow Cookson, Royal New Zealand Navy. Chief Petty Officer Christopher John Halliday, Royal New Zealand Navy. Sergeant Michael James Clayton, Royal New Zealand Air Force. Flight Sergeant Murray Edward Ransfield, Royal New Zealand Air Force. Companion of the Queen's Service Order QSO. Companion of the Queen's Service Order QSO. For community service. Boudouin Hugh Boyd Hubert Clapp. Dr. Ronald Mackenzie. Hugh Wahamena Poto. Patricia Mary Payne. Jean Helen Wood. Hal Boyd Clapp Wellington, CNCM for the crop. Shippy G. Boyd Clapp. For public services. Selwyn John Begley. Elizabeth Ann Biddles. David Lloyd Lean. Margaret Ann Bedgood Mulligan. The Honourable Herbert Elmering Pickering. Alison Burns Quentin Baxter. Georgina Manuiti Hugh. Colonel Thomas Frederick Llewellyn Ward, New Zealand Army retired. Barbara Frances Watson. The Honourable Mervyn Langall Wellington. May Norma Woodcock. Val Alison Quentin Baxter DNCM Cropped. JBG Alison Quentin Baxter File Georgina T. Hugh Cropped. JBD Georgina T. Hugh. Queen's Service Medal QSN. Queen's Service Medal QSM. For community service. Shaw Evelyn Bennett. Emily Jean Bachman. Gordon Frederick Burrows. Patricia Mary Lady Coy. Medal Jessie Christie. Job Winning K. Clark. The Venerable Archdeacon Anthony Ivan Clark. Al Pickett Coleman. Angela Mary Counts Costello. Tilla Dixie Day. Donald James Fraser. Betty Emma Garrett. John Stuart Gray. Muriel Peggy Hunnan. Mary Latchmore Hassett. Morris Murray Hennessy. Peter Charles Henwood. Rosemary Ann Horton. June Elizabeth Jones. Lucine Fuke Collar. Randall George Cannon McMurtry. Peter Gustavus Lyne Morton. Son Ocean Q. Mary Rodwell. Deacon Elva May Reynolds. Stanley Edward Rowe. Nancy St. Cox. Louise Juliet Sutherland. Raymond Packer Monatomi Dorama. Miriam Millie Mackay Harawira. Jonathan William Edward Tucker. Jocelyn Ann Whitehouse. Olive Kathleen Wilkinson. Keith Jean Wilson. Nanette Worgan. Val Rosie Horton Cropped. Chippy D. Rosie Horton. For public services. John Henry Black. George Raymond Bransgrove. Geraldine Jenny Buller. John Matthew Topaki Cribb. Percy Bailey Lucas Cubit. Dr. Shirley Juliet Dowding. Frank Jeffrey Fairfield. Patricia Molly Gilbert. Enid Marjorie Hay. Francis George Howe. Shen John Stanislaw Jorka. Basil Terence Johnson. Norma Beverly Lewis. Elizabeth Ann Lupton. Sandra Joy Madison Detective Sergeant, New Zealand Police. George Mason. Taffy Francis McAvan. Ivan Leonard Morton. Shirley Dorothy Oakley. Apoti Togakilo Polka. Coral Mary Ridling. Mavis Jean Ring. Gordon Air Potter Ronganui Senior Sergeant, New Zealand Police. Patricia Helen Gillespie Ryan. Robert Rawson Shaw. Holland Owen Douglas Sigelka. Jean Smart. Mitt Tepper George Hugh. John Duncan Usher. Dr. Jeffrey Llewellyn Walton. Dr. Jonah Lena Walton. Simon Hallows Wood. Marlene Theo Woods. Beatrice Tui Yates. Queen's Fire Service Medal QFSM. Queen's Fire Service Medal QFSM Raymond Noel Senior Firefighter, Temika Volunteer Fire Brigade, New Zealand Fire Service. William John Lester Chief Fire Officer, Palmerston Volunteer Fire Brigade, New Zealand Fire Service. Robert Graham Sampson Fire Force Commander, No. 2 Region Hamilton, New Zealand Fire Service. Queen's Police Medal QPM. Queen's Police Medal QPM Anthony John Hill Detective Senior Sergeant, New Zealand Police. Air Force Cross ASC. Air Force Cross ASC Squadron Leader John Keith Duxfield, Royal New Zealand Air Force.